Maru's knowledge of and range in strategy and understanding of how Solar plays is his advantage. His ability to realize that Solar may be predictable is where Terran success may lie.
Yeah, especially come that late game. I mean, they share kind of like that strength in getting there, but then Maru is near unbeatable, right? Outside of players like Cyril, it's very difficult to see anyone else giving him trouble. So let's see if Solar can kind of adapt and make something happen a little bit earlier, perhaps.
Indeed. Well, let's see what he can get done. I'd love to see some of those early timing attacks. A lot of the Zerg fans would. In the bottom right side of the map, representing Vitality, it's Solar.
And over in the top left, it is the greatest Terran of all time, representing also Vitality. It is Maru.
Kicking things off on site Delta. The focus is real for both sides. And we are going to be seeing that 2 racks Reaper for Maru. Maru wanting to put on some pressure early, keeping Solar's opening very safe. But you know what? There's no gas for Solar just yet. Okay. There we go. I thought for a second he was going to go for a spawning pool without it. That would be wild on this map, wouldn't it, Paulo? Feels like the Reaper's openings are just so common and so strong on this map. And it's almost like this is just the standard. Zerg has to go fast ling speed. And the question, I guess, is does Zerg try to sneak the third base in? Because if they do, Terran can cancel that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be difficult here for Solar to pull off anything like a fast third. I mean, he went for 18 at the gas and then 17 for the pool. So he should be fine theoretically, but it's not a particularly long map either, right? So
definitely lots of options available in the follow-up as well. We saw Maru's first map against Cyril yesterday. There was a nasty, it was like a fast lair, Ravager ling timing with Queens and an Overseer to deal with the Banshees, and that was a really clever attack. But on this map, you've got the ramp there. Even though the add-ons are on the outside on this spawn, it feels like it's always such a commitment to go aggressive here. That being said, Maru's other loss to a Zerg in this tournament, Dark went for a crazy Ravager ling attack against this 2-Rax Reaper opening, busted open the wall, couldn't get in the main, couldn't really get that many SCVs, but he just cleared up the infrastructure, delayed Maru enough, and ended up carrying it through in the later game. So definitely early aggression has been causing some mixed success for the Zergs against Maru.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be difficult to go up that ramp if you're Solar. It's a difficult decision to make. At the same time, Maru would have much rather, for this strategy in particular, spawned at the bottom right where his add-ons are a little bit more tucked in naturally, right? Instead of having to account for that preemptively with the building positioning. And hey, what is this drone doing, Piggy?
I like this. Just hiding in the grass, you know. Oh, wait, and he's even looking for it. He knows it's out here somewhere, but he can't quite find it. This is 2 teammates playing. Oh, he will find it.
Wow, that's actually insane. So that drone will go down. Solar with a cheeky smile there.
Only teammates know each other's habits this well after you've played so many times in practice and in tournaments. Solar trying to get out there. That drone does escape, though. And I think Solar's done a very good job of continuing to drone. His ling speed's almost finished. He's got 4 queens up and the double creep tumor as he moves the drone out the right side to take the alternate third base location. I don't really think the alternate third's a big problem. I know the other one's good because it kind of launches your creep forward onto this bottom side of the map, but this northern third is actually much easier to defend from, say, drops and air harass because they can't bounce up and do that kind of high ground, low ground bounce back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Solar definitely wanted to be a little bit cheeky hiding that drone and trying to get an expansion elsewhere. But at this point, I mean, he's going to be happy with this. Losing 2 drones would have been brutal. If Maru had been paying attention as fast as he possibly could have, maybe there would have been a chance to snipe it. But Solar with a double creep tumor as well is going to be able to push out pretty fast and defend the middle ground location here between those bases. So he's pretty well set up to defend.
We're going to be seeing a Liberator first for Maru. 3 command center, Hellions, and a Liberator. Kind of a very well-balanced mobile pressure opening. No fierce direct attack, but with the 3 Reapers combined with the Hellions, it gives you a bit more opportunity to engage the Queens, use those Reaper grenades, the regeneration on the Reapers in between these little skirmishes to heal up. Solar, on the other hand, is rushing double evolution chamber, and that's cool to see. I always think of Solar as a guy who for a long time was like, I always go lair, second gas, Baneling Nest, I want the fast Bane speed. And we've realized guys like Dark have had so much success just rushing the upgrades. It's a little greedy, but if you get away with it, the rewards are so good. Zerg's so used to being behind in upgrades. In this matchup, if you're ahead of the Terran, there are these windows where you can just swarm over the Marine tank.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is greedy, like you're saying, right? Because if you don't have that Baneling speed in time, the medevac, the first set of medevacs and so on with a lot of bio can be extremely scary. So once he gets those upgrades kicking in, and if he is able to do so uninterrupted, then he will be in a fantastic position. Maru is just now starting his E-base, but we'll see if Maru allows him that chance.
Nice advantage on the upgrades. Ling's trying to take down the rocks. Good preemptive planning for Solar, realizing those pushes later could be an issue. But he hasn't spotted this in the main base.
Only one queen.
Yeah, one queen's not enough to shut that down very quickly. We'll see how quickly Solar reacts. So far, losing no drones, dropping a spore. Very nice reaction by Solar. The Liberator goes for the sneaky reposition there. The queen, though, only taking one shot. Maru being very aggressive with the Liberator. Doesn't pull back to repair, just keeps on sieging up on the front. And you know what? That queen, she's in the wrong spot. Hellions distracting on that side, which means the queen goes down. Solar a little bit distracted. Does have to pull those drones away. Spore Crawl is ready now. Liberator resieges. Overall, you know what? Losing a queen's not great, but the Liberator goes down. I think Solar's happy to take that trade.
Yeah, for sure. I think that Solar maybe thought that, you know, didn't see the repositioning of the Liberator right away and thought, okay, if he repositions, then there's going to be a chance that my queen just takes it down. Looks elsewhere, like you were saying, so great distraction by Maru. But also Maru was a little bit slow to react to the Spore, which is kind of unexpected at this stage of the game.
Keep in mind that Solar can take a lot of hits. Do not think he will go down easily. I think a lot of people get confused because we talk about Maru being an overwhelming favorite in the head-to-head, and every time we cast these games, they go, wow, Solar's getting walloped. Do not get me wrong. Solar can be defensive all game and look like he's just taking punch after punch. That is his style. That is how Solar wins games. He breaks his opponent's momentum with his jaw. It's like watching Rocky in boxing. You know, it's I'm going to tire you out with my face. Solar's whole thing is defend, get 4 bases, just hang on, survive. Eventually the hive tech kicks in, and that's when his lurkers come out, he will hit a fierce counter attack. And that is what Maru needs to do, is either get enough damage early that you do critical damage before he gets to lurkers, or once the hive tech's out, you need to survive that counter aggression. So far, Maru very siege tank focused. Historically, I feel like Widowmine play has been what Solar's struggled the most with from both Maru and Clem, but siege tanks are going to be more of like a static, one-directional push. It's not as much about the multitasking, it's about one big angle, and you can see Maru's already chosen where that's going to be. It's this northern side, tank sieging up around this terrain, so hard for Zerglings to get on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be difficult. At the same time, Solar is already getting 2-2. I mean, his lair was perfectly synced. As soon as it finished, he started the Baneling speed. As soon as the upgrades finished, he had exactly enough to go for the 2-2. So again, I think he is getting very well set up. I think he knows that his opponent is Maru and that he had kind of a lot of breathing room here leading up to this point in the game. But now Maru has his 1-1, so it's kind of time for him to act. Otherwise, Solar is going to continue to get ahead in the upgrade department, and his creep is already pretty good as well. So I don't hate his position. If he's able to hold and actually being a little bit aggressive, this looks great for Solar.
Yeah, there are tanks on the high ground, so he won't be able to get too much damage on the workers, but he does clear out a lot of the army on the low ground. Great pullback from the SCVs. Command Center does get cancelled as well. 4th CC getting cancelled slows down Maru's potential economic growth, but this was not enough damage. Keep in mind, Solar's been sitting on just 67, 68 workers. He built an abundance of army, specifically hoping to crush Maru when Maru overcommitted to the push. And he knew Maru was going to commit to the push. He wasn't counting on Maru keeping multiple tanks on the high ground, though. Maru with so much insurance behind this. Now that he defends, Maru could gather his army, get that push going in, or he could choose to macro up. Either one's fine, because when you're ahead in workers against the Zerg, you're feeling great.
Yeah, especially after taking that 4th base. I mean, Solar hasn't really repopulated with creep, even though he has a lot of energy on the queens. The Lynx, however, are gonna find a lonely tank here. The Banelings to follow through. I mean, they're gonna struggle to go past the choke and into the SCV line. Solar knows that and knows that there's those potential siege tanks on the high ground. So instead, he's gonna retreat. But Maru is ready to strike on the other side. Is Solar ready here? It does look like it, but the siege line is so deep, Piggy.
Indeed, the Marines and the tanks going to take out that 5th base. You got to get back here and you got to hit this from 2 sides as Solar. That's exactly what he does. 5th base gets cancelled. Ling's on top of the tanks. Banelings go after the Marines, but he doesn't chase off creep. That was a beautiful pullback timing from Solar. If he kept chasing, those Banelings were going to get gunned down. But he gets rid of your artillery, your long-range support in the siege tanks, and pulls back. Maru only now rebuilding his 4th command center for the 2nd time. Remember, got cancelled once, got killed once. This is meaning Maru, with 77 workers, is not really that efficient on that worker count. He needs a bit more damage. He's got to keep slowing Solar down. He can't give Solar room to drone up and get a 5th.
Yeah, absolutely. Solar with good reposition and their good response with the Lynx. Only 1 queen and 1 spore there to prevent anything like what Maru was attempting to do. Solar does hold on to his 4th and now is attempting to take a 5th. But again, not a lot of creeps where it was had here, and that means that Maru is going to go in and get the cancel.
Oh, he drops the Marine and clicks the drone! Do you know how hard that is to select that Marine in that split second, click it on the drone, get a shot off? What an annoying move for Maru, and that is something you don't see Maru leaning into those moves that often. Often he's a bit more kind of like big picture, but when he plays against a teammate like Solar, they're good close friends, and he kind of realizes, hey, maybe I can just get a little psychological edge by annoying you with these maneuvers.
Oh, absolutely. I thought Hero Marine was already out of the tournament, Piggy, but it looks like he's not.
Yeah, Gabriel came back just to get dropped out of that medevac, and does get a one big Gabe shot off on that, but for now, the fast +3 carapace is impressive for Solar. He's got +1 range on the way, adrenal glands as well. His work account's not amazing. He was playing a very dark style this game, fast upgrades, but a lower work account. Now he's up at that 81 work as Solar's done a fantastic job. And I gotta say, I'm used to seeing Solar with very little creep spread by this point in the matchup. Yet Maru, even though he's been dropping a lot, Solar's
no
creep
banelings
spread
here.
on the creep has been so good.
Yeah, I mean, Solar's going to get pushed back. I wonder where the banelings are. He's going to really need him for this engagement. They're trailing behind here as there are some mines, but they might work against Maru as they do splash a little bit of the bio. Now Maru trying to go into the main base as the Queens try to guard on the north, and the Vipers are out, already having consumed enough to drop some parasitic bombs, and that means it's going to be difficult for Maru to escape with some of these medevacs, and a great move by Solar. But on the other side, Maru does not have enough. Oh my god, yeah, this is a little bit too much.
Yeah,
a little bit too much for Solar.
Maru's pushing in with so much. That first fight on the bottom, you called it that Banelings were late. He lost so many Zerglings defending, and now even just 2 Marines in the main base, you could see that they got unloaded back in that main and they're doing big damage. 2 Vipers went down as well. So expensive on the gas. The minerals here. Solar's 5th base is in jeopardy. Maru now swapping into the Widow Mines. Though it's such an effective play. The Ling Bane are getting smeared across the battlefield. Personal medevacs for pretty much every Marine and Marauder in that army. And Maru maintaining a 20 supply lead. He is keeping up the aggression, and now we are seeing Solar without the lurk attack, without that +3 armor yet. He's not in a position to suddenly get the aggression going, and it feels like Maru is saying, well, you might have Hive Tech, doesn't matter, I'm just going to keep attacking and wearing you down with the Biomine.
Yeah, well, he continues to expand as well as he's floating a CC forward towards the area that Solar is trying to control as well. So Maru positioning himself to be very aggressive while defending his own bases. As he continues to push onto this north location, he is trying to get set up, but he is on creep. Gotta be careful with those mines as Solar does a good job of sending a few units in front.
Wingbane coming forward, but the Marauders plus Mines is such a scary combo. The Concussive Shell slows down your units, and the Widow Mine splashes can be devastating. Beautiful push here from Maru. He's up the 20-30 army supply. Drop on the left side, also going to clean up those Zerglings. And Solar, what does he have as an efficient way of clearing this? Parasitic bombs on medevacs is a big part of what he should be using for efficiency, but remember, Maru sniped 2 Vipers in the main base. Yeah, it cost him a lot of Marines, but I think it was worth it because his medevac count is not really being touched. He's denying the 6th base in the bottom yet again, and Solar is not finding any positive trades. You can see the units lost have 4,000 resource lost advantage. Maru with the hot pickups, and that is so many Widow Mines.
Yeah, good split towards the end there from Solar to account for those, but now the bio is behind to try to serve as a backbone, and that's going to push Solar back, or actually he's going to choose to engage. I'm not sure that that's the right call here, but one of the Banelings does slip through and connects onto the Marines in the back. Now the Vipers are trying to do what they can to clean up, and I think you're absolutely right, Piggy. I mean, those Vipers early on lost were so very important because Solar's gas management has been so clean in how he has progressed in terms of tech, basically. So he really needed those Vipers to stay alive, but now that he's kind of back to the Vipers and kind of back to the upgrades and now going into Hydras, this game is still looking pretty doable.
Lurker Den now coming down. Solar knows he needs something else here. 80 workers against 80, but Terran's building 4 command centers. I mean, it's great to see Solar with such good mid control in the creep spread. He's going to use this to try and put Maru on the defensive. But 5 base against 5 base, equal workers, it's a position that Terran loves. The Ghost Academy is up, and as those ghosts come out, potentially the Vipers are going to be getting EMP'd. They seem to be forgotten in the main right now in the midst of the chaos. Solar needs to get those Vipers back into action, landing spells, and indeed they will be heading back to the front now. He's got a bit more map control, does Solar, but the army is still so scary from Terran.
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially with Maru having that forward base there, because it's very easy to siege from that location with the Ghosts, with the high ground. And now Solar has to expand to the 6 o'clock, but Maru knows that that is what Solar has to do, so blindly he moves a big chunk of army here. However, the Banelings may connect here, but good chokes there from Maru allows him to take decent engagement, a decent trade, now as he tries to move on to the main. Got to be careful there with the Banelings as they're looking to connect as well. But Maru is quick to reposition. The Parasitic Bomb did a lot of damage to the Medivacs who were trying to go into the main, so they're forced to go back to the 6 o'clock. Let's see if Solar can reposition as Maru takes some nasty chokes.
Oh, here we go. Bio Ghost in the bottom looking for a hatchery snipe. Not quite going to be able to get a good defense by Solar.
Nice.
Very good catch there. It feels like Solar has been on the brink of dying for so long, and yet this is just a classic Solar game. I warned you about it earlier because I know it looks like he's about to die, but this is every single time I think, oh, it looks like he's crumbling. No, he just is comfortable in this game state. That being said, as the mass orbital comes up, it does get scary, right? Where do you find a chance to counter push? Nidus Worm, Lurkers, it seems like that's going to be kind of the play. Sight Delta is also a good map to pick apart a Terran in terms of multi-prong, right? You can attack 2-3 angles. The bases are so spread out. It's going to be difficult for Maru to keep up.
Yeah, we'll see if Solar can pull a fast one there. I wonder if Maru should be looking to try to use that high ground and that forward base, maybe remake some tanks, or do you feel like that's not the right call right now?
I love tanks in the late game against a Lurker-based style, especially lots of Hydra Baneling. There is right now a Lurker harassing his base from the low ground, which is a really cool move from Solar. Overseer spotting.
Very cool.
The downside of going tanks, because I've talked to Clem about this a lot, is it does give up mobility if you go for those, but the Ghost is a more fragile style, and the Nidus Worms coming up right now. Single Siege Tank moves over. We can see in the picture-in-picture to finally clean up that Lurker harass. Nidus Worm coming up, Massling, Bane, Hydra on the front. The Vipers here as well. Blind Cloud's on the ramp doing pretty well. I like the Baneling splits, but a lot of the Ghosts are nearby, and even with that Nidus coming up and behind the natural, can he get much damage? Well, the Link Bane's in the third base. The Hydra's being careful, but great damage on those workers. A few depots going down as well. All these buildings add a bit of value in the long term, even though they aren't immediately resulting in supply blocks. And it feels like Solar, as long as he's not too inefficient, these sorts of moves should be great.
Yeah, that was great by him. I mean, kind of using the Hydras as well to, in a concave, try to send out the Ghost for as long as possible, as Maru had a lot of them choked up in the natural expansion, so that allows the Lynx to go into his third and deal a little bit of extra damage. As on the other side, there's a Nidus. I mean, this was not the most threatening Nidus ever, but Maru is going to be on top of it anyway. 6
libs building at a time. Maru swapping hard into Liberators. And Hydras are okay against a few Liberators. Once you get a lot of them, it gets very awkward. Now, don't get me wrong, Vipers can abduct, but if the Ghosts are used correctly to counter the Spellcasters, Hydras are going to fall off drastically. Liberator range has already been upgraded, and Hydras will start getting massacred. So, you know, you got to start to play this like PvT. Avoid the Liberator zones like we saw Showtime in the previous series trying to do. Don't just headbutt into these positions. Solar's going to have to be very selective about where he fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. Just one Lurker at a time. You got to be as annoying as possible if you are Solar in this position. He is getting also one Infestor. I'm not even sure if he has Burrow research, but this Lurker's here, Siege in the right position as well. That is going to be beautiful damage onto the PF and force Maru to further react as Solar continues to be aggressive elsewhere. 3-pronged attack.
Hydra Lingbane army here is massive. Vipers coming forward, dropping a Parasitic Bomb. EMPs go out to zone, but one of the Vipers still has energy. Single Lurker in the north behind the base as well. I think it's just so many problems, so many fires for Maru to put out right now. Solar is playing this map so very well. And Maru, can he keep up? He's got more infrastructure. I think he might have the better long-term tech in the Ghost Lib, but he's not locked everything down. He doesn't have extra planetary fortresses for insurance just yet. And I feel like if Solar could just isolate this base on the right, blow it up, and get out of there, that would be great. But right now, he's kind of getting cornered. Solar maybe not being decisive enough.
Yeah, maybe not, but I do love what he's doing there, right? Like 2 Lurkers here, 1 Lurker there. If he could get a Nidus off right now in the main or elsewhere, it would be fantastic for him. I love the Infestor as well. If he has Burrow and he can utilize that to try to catch the Ghosts in the midst of chaos, that would be fantastic. I'm not sure that this is the call, however, for Solar, but he thinks it is, and he's going to get a couple of Liberators before reconsidering.
Yeah, a lot of units to go down for the Zerg. They're rebuilding 16 Hydras. Okay, this is where things get weird. Solar is going so heavy on the Hydra. I think that's too heavy, because the problem with the Hydras is they get stuck behind each other. If you go anywhere above, say, 15 Hydras in a battle, they're kind of just stacking up behind each other.
Yeah.
It can be effective if you split them into 2 or 3 squads and attack different areas, but he's mostly been moving them around in one squad. So what I'd love to see from Solar here is splitting that army up and making sure he focuses on lots of Baneling production for the next minute or two. The Liberator count is just out of control, though, with so many Liberators. He might need to build a Spire and think about Corruptors, because they are a better answer. The Liberators can't fight back. Eventually, you do usually get forced to swap into Corruptors in this matchup.
Yeah, the problem, I think, for Solar is the mineral-to-gas ratio, right? If you look at his bank, I mean, he has so many minerals and so little gas that it's very difficult, I think, for him to allow himself to make, say, Vipers or something else to account for the Liberators. That's why I think he feels forced to make so many Hydras. But this is a beautiful engagement as the Banelings pull through, and they actually collapse onto the army. That allows Solar to reset the Liberator count. This would be a good time to morph some Lurkers, add some Zerglings, and try to make something happen.
That was huge. He caught the Libs mid-siege, parasitic bomb, some fungals landing, and that was, I'm going to say, the first truly successful, resounding Zerg victory in terms of the battles this game. That has no doubt shifted Units Lost tab back in the Zerg favor a little bit more. You can see it there, only behind 6,000. That's great. That is, for this matchup, you're meant to be behind in the trading. That is a fantastic Units Lost ratio that Solar's got there. Catching some of the army down here. I'd love to see him just keep fighting. Yeah, the medevacs have to pick up and get out, but with the Ghost coming down, that's why he's backing away.
Yeah, he was trying to bait him.
Yeah, if you ever stand on the edge of the range, it's like, oh, this fight's good for Zerg. Then you just see those tracking lines from the snipers, and 10 Hydras can get popped in the blink of an eye. Solar still has a massive Hydra count. He's still got great Lurker harass on the north. If he could get a Nidus in the back as well, I feel like this next big wave might just break Maru's back. Maru's got no money left. He's only equal in army supply. Maru is struggling to defend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for Solar, he still has to be very careful. His gas bank is still very low. He is adding the Banelings that you requested, however, to try to deal with the Ghosts with Link Bane. I think that's one of the best ways to do it, especially after you clear the Liberators. He's being very annoying with the Burrow as well. And he took both corner bases, which is fantastic for him should the game continue to extend.
Army moving back. He's splitting it up right now is Solar. Maru still is hanging on to 6 bases. As much as I'm saying Maru's struggling to control everything, I mean, it's because he's got 6 bases. 6 bases for Terran is a lot of money. Solar, of course, has maintained an income advantage for most of that last period. Banelings coming forward, spreading against the Widow Mines. He could potentially blow up this planetary. Marauders are there. It's a lot of Banelings needed to kill a planetary. I don't think he's got the numbers. A wise pullback for Solar. Will he capitalize on the other side of the map? That army is much bigger in the south. Solar is gathering up in the center, gathering his forces. He's really trying to pick the correct engagement. This is, though, giving Maru time, and time is Maru's friend. It's something where I think Solar needs to lean into the urgency a little bit more. He had some tempo. It's starting to slip away.
I don't like this for Solar. I don't like it at all. He's going to reconsider it as well. I mean, he spotted all of the Ghosts with the Zerglings that he had burrowed, so he should have moved away from the Ghosts, I think. Instead, he collapses onto the army where Maru has the easiest time basically joining his army together, but he is quick to reconsider, doesn't lose too much. Here, the Vipers are going to do a good job of abducting a Liberator, but they got to be careful. They could easily get sniped, and they will.
Big snipes there. Maru's revenge. This is why you can't be fighting in front on. Maru, when he's got the fight set up, he is immaculate. That's why we need to see Solar sending these units around as he is now with the counterattack. Those Libs, when they're pre-sieged, spread out, the Ghosts are behind, the Marauders up front, my lord. That is not an army that Zerg wants to engage into. I think you got to go full Dark here as Solar. What would Dark do? I think we all know what Dark would do. He'd run around, he'd send his whole army into your main base, and that's what Solar's going for with a large section of units trying to get on top of the production right now. Maru SimCity is fantastic, though, blocking up the units, and oh, the Nidus escape, the Zeril maneuver. Nice. Solar, really nice, saving some of that economy.
Yeah, and continue to expand as well, so he's doing the best that he can on that front. The Ghosts, again, are going to reveal themselves here. The Lynx, if they can get burrowed, that would be nice, but Maru is already very quick to scan. Now he knows where the Ghosts are. Here is where I would love for Solar to try to make something happen elsewhere. He's going to spot the mines and try to blow them off with some Zerglings, but again, collapsing onto the middle base here where the Ghosts are going to be semi-quick to reinforce, I think, and the mines are being super annoying. They will get cleared back on the way back. But now he gains all this terrain and isn't able to capitalize as the Ghosts are back. Piggy, this is troublesome for Solar. I mean, if we look at the army, I would imagine that Maru's is significantly more expensive.
Absolutely. Remember, he was down 6,000 resources in units lost. Now he's down 15,000. Those last few minutes have been disastrous. Solar, I believe, needs to split his army half and half and just hit the extreme edges of the map. I think right now he's kind of keeping his whole army together, looking for that big ambush again, but Maru's not making that mistake. Maru is so well set up on these engagements. He's clearing the creep back. Everything is pre-spread. I mean, this is looking like how Cure was doing it earlier today with just beautiful pre-set up engagements. Getting an Infestor behind is good, but there's no clump. There's nothing to take advantage of unless you force Maru to run backwards in a big ball. Then the Infestor can come in. But that means you're running through 8 Liberators. That's never a good idea. So, oh my gosh, he even scans it. How did he know?
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Maybe he's scanned like the edge of the Liberator. Solar must have moved it a little bit, and then with the Ghost, he's able to reveal it and kill it. Solar trying to find an angle here elsewhere, but I mean, he had to forfeit that position. These links are really nice, as there's only one medevac. A lot of that bio will actually fall to just Zerglings, which is about as good as you could hope for Solar. But now, I mean, he's going to get pushed back once away. But he really needs to find an angle, Piggy.
Oh, I thought he was going to turn and take that fight.
Oh, no, misclick!
Oh, no, the accidental.
Oh, no,
the panic. Solar, it was going so well for him, weathering the storm. But the last few minutes have been a hurricane of mistakes for the Zerg. And Maru, I mean, forcing those mistakes as well. These are not unforced errors. This is, you are playing the best late-game TVZ player in the world, and he is making things difficult for you. Solar had some openings earlier on, but Maru put out all those fires, and now he is the one lighting the Zerg army on fire. He is creating a bonfire upon the thousands of dead Zerg on this map. This is absolutely brutal. Look at Maru's bank. Solar can't even remax. He's down 20,000 resources in efficiency.
Yeah, and I mean, his bank is completely gone whilst Maru continues to pile up. So this is a very, very difficult position now for Solar, near impossible, I would dare say. I mean, he has to find a miracle onto the Ghosts. Maybe that's why he opted into the Infestors. If he can get some Fungals, maybe some Burrow Banelings or some sort of Hail Mary to try to reset things a little bit. Because as it stands, Maru is going to continue to be cost efficient. He has the better army, and now he is looking to equalize in terms of economy as well.
Scary mid-game for Maru. And this is a good example, I think, of this matchup, because Terran invests so much in their infrastructure, the mass orbital command centers that gives them all the mules and scans that make them so good in the late game. But when you're going for it, you are vulnerable. Oh my gosh, great fungal, but if you don't have a second one, you should be able to get out of there. Maybe. Oh, Ling baits around. Overseer's there for the detection. Vipers even abducted. Ghosts, nice move for Solar. The Libs come back in on top of the Hydras. This is a really good fight. Amazingly good fight for Solar. He has so little bank behind it. He needs the perfect engagement, and that was just about it. That was such a good fight. Maru, gotta watch out for the Infestor on the left flank. It's gonna get a fungal on the Ghost. Doesn't land it on the bio though, and there is not enough Hydraling Bane to capitalize. Solar is out of money. Oh, these fights coming in at the end of, it feels like 5 minutes of disasters into 1 minute of perfect fights for Solar, but the previous 5 minutes meant it wasn't worth it. If he had more units in this, he'd be able to roll over Maru after those engagements, but he just didn't have the numbers.
Absolutely. I mean, even like 5 or 7 more Banelings, he might have been able to push on through and try to take that engagement. The Infestors, perhaps, if they had fungled the bio, like you said, instead of the Ghosts, there would have been an opportunity there. But Solar, I mean, he was decisive enough to take that engagement, maybe not decisive enough in terms of the disengage or to continue to push forward, and it's understandable because he's in such a dire position that he really has to make some tough choices, right? He has to decide, this is my last stand.
Oh, what a fantastic example of both of the strengths of these players. Maru's early game is vicious. Solar managed to survive, fight back in the mid-game, the early-late game, and start to swarm over the top. But once Maru digs in his heels, there is no Terran like him in the late game. I mean, we saw that yesterday. Very few players can take the games that close in the late game to Serral, and I'm still a believer that even in the final game of that Maru-Serral series, if he was more patient and didn't try to force it, I really think Maru could have taken down Serral last night. It's just a testament to how good he is. It is a different experience. You cannot get practice against players of this caliber except by playing them, and playing them when the stakes are high. Maru has such a fantastic army. The Lib Ghost, it's been his special unit set ever since 2016. Early Legacy of the Void, he's been the best player in the world with this army.
That's got to be game for Solar. And he will type out. What a tough game for him. I mean, he had such great mid-game there. I feel like he had very many opportunities to kind of try to pile onto his aggression and try to end the game. But Maru, I mean, he's Maru for a reason. He is the best at stabilizing, at recovering, at taking it to the late game. And once he gets his Ghosts and once he gets his army and his Liberators, it's so difficult to trade well against them at all.
Good on Maru making it exciting, as he always does, right? He kind of like, ooh, it looks like he's breaking. No. Once he gets that determined look on his face and starts to play the late game the way he knows how, we start to see why he has so many trophies in that case. Some really cool ambushes here from Solar. I really felt like the Viper usage, the Infestor usage was pretty good. The movement for him, he was creating a lot of problems for Maru. You know, we've seen Dark recently have a lot of success with this sort of just hitting 3-4 positions at once repeatedly over and over again. it's hard to emulate that. I think Solar did a very good kind of, version of that style here once he got control with the Hive Tech. But, hats off to...
Cool. That was insane.
Maru's the only guy who gets to recruit other pro gamers to be his unit. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, yeah, I think that there was moments where Solar had, like, Lurker Siege, like, one at each base. And in those moments where it's so chaotic for the Terran, where they are just experiencing the first Nidus, that's when you gotta try to capitalize if you're Solar and find more opportunities to continue to pile onto the aggression, get a Nidus in the main or an attack elsewhere. And I feel like he was missing that third prong when you can basically leave the Lurkers idle doing their thing.
The ability to overload your opponent, something that he was so close to doing in the last game. Let's see if he can find it here in map 2. Representing a Vitality in an unfortunate team kill match in the top left side, it is Solar.
And in the bottom right-hand side of Oceanborn, it is his map pick. It is Maru. That's the other thing, right, Piggy? I mean, yeah, that was Solar's map pick as well. So now it's only going to get tougher. It's a very steep uphill battle.
This map is so very good for late-game turtle play. That being said, I do think 2-Rax Reaper Wall-Off here is one of the most risky builds on this map. And I think if Solar wants to, mix in and all in, it's, hey, look, you've got no ramp on this natural. That ramp is way further in front, doesn't really help you defend.
Yeah.
It's an exposed Wall-Off. All your early game productions there. I would love to see Solar throw an all-in into this best of 3. It's always a hard choice because playing like that last game, Solar always feels like that's his best way of playing. And it feels like, I think when Maru's like weakest against Solar is when he like leans too hard into like early timing attack aggression. He's like, I'm gonna hit you with the hell that timing. I'm gonna rush you with 3-Rax Reaper. I feel like Solar very regularly beats Maru when he plays like that. When Maru plays a balanced game like that last one, where he just kind of macros and attacks and keeps going and works his way towards the late game, I think that does get very much in Maru's favor.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Solar could go for a Baneling Bust, a Ravager push. It feels like Nidus Worms and even Queen and Ling Drops have been gaining popularity recently.
Yeah, for sure. I would love a Ravager push personally. Just keep it simple, right? There's no ramp. You can siege those barracks rather easily. At the same time, I mean...
And attacks and keeps going and works his way towards the late game. I think that does get very much in Maru's favor.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Solar could go for a Baneling Bust, a Ravager push. It feels like Nidus Worms and even Queen and Ling Drops have been gaining popularity recently.
Yeah, for sure. I would love a Ravager push personally. Just keep it simple, right? There's no ramp. You can siege those barracks rather easily. At the same time, I mean, when you say, like, yeah, Maru sometimes does feel like the need to punish Solar, because if we think to last game, that was also a great opening for Solar as far as the upgrades were concerned. He was very greedy, right? Like, kind of delaying his Baneling speed in favor of getting those upgrades, and he was so as clean as he was in getting the link speed, in getting the 1-1, the Baneling speed after the fact, and then the 2-2. Just perfect gas management from Solar on that front. But still, it wasn't enough, kind of that perfect setup that he got. And, I feel like Maru looks to punish that, but maybe this time around it's on Solar to try something.
Oceanborn, an interesting map. We talked about the late game being very good. The bases a bit closer together. More focused on busting the fourth base immediately on this map a lot of the time is the Zerg. It's like, I'm going to smash you earlier and harder. If you let them get to 5 bases, like in that last map, it's a huge problem. It is so difficult as the Zerg. Last game, there was enough space between the bases. Solar was finding good fights. 5 base first, 5 base, 6 base first, 5 base. He's going to go for that third hatchery. Queen's moving out. Now, because this hatchery is a bit closer, you can defend it without massing Zerglings or anything like that. And that's why he's got, it's not a crazy delayed third hatchery. Delayed it a little bit. Lots of gas building up for Solar as well, though. And that Roach Roaring does go down.
Yeah.
With no link speed, it's usually not a sign of aggression, but it's just basically saying I want to play a Roach style.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Maru opened with the Reapers. Maybe there would have been an opportunity had he continued Reaper production. But again, these players know each other so well that it is very unlikely for Maru to do something like that. And Solar is kind of exploiting that to some degree, right? Like, makes the Zerglings, puts them in a perfect position, and lets the Queens push the 3 Reapers back. Again, without link speed, if you continue to make those Reapers, it actually can become pretty impossible for the Zerg to defend.
Well, you talked about upgrades in Game 1, Cats. guess what? Maru wants the upgrade advantage in game 2. That is a
Solar.
disgustingly fast double upgrade, isn't it? Third command center into double upgrades. I mean, the thing is, these upgrades are so early, this doesn't even give you a good 1-1 timing as the Terran, because you don't actually have many Marines. You're aiming for like 2-2 to be the point where you're actually doing a ton of fighting. I mean, technically you can hit the 1-1 Hellbat timing if we see an armory come down with like maybe 10, 12 Marines at most. But it's going to be one of those kind of weird in-between ones, and it's the 2-2 that you're really looking for later in the game. Lair comes down for Solar. No Evolution Chambers for him just yet, which makes sense, of course. I mean, it's pre-5 minutes. Evo's down at even 5:30 is considered very early with a Roach build. But Solar's kind of locked down on the defense, droning pretty well. And I think playing Roaches, immediately like Maru seeing that, any plan of going for a Hellbat Marine timing, I think, goes out the window. Roaches are just, you know, too effective against that. And actually, did you see that he just started Cyclones and then canceled them?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Maybe just accounting for the fact that Solar could be going for some aggression here, but that's not going to be the case at all, as he is actually just going into his own lair. Still no Evo Chambers on his side of things, and an Armory for Maru perfectly timed as well to continue to get onto his 2-2.
Double upgrades at 520, or double Evo, I should say, for Solar. So he's going to be behind a full 2 upgrades. Now, this is such a weird situation because essentially Maru, if he can get to 2-2 against 1-1 with similar bio numbers, you'll ravage him. I mean, Solar will be the one with the ravages, but he's going to be getting destroyed. It's not going to be good for him at all. So there's a 1-1 timing you could hit where you're both even on upgrades. It could be massive for Solar. Obviously, he's actually got a super quick infestation hit, so he could tech up to very fast lurkers or swap, you know, just into like banelings and that sort of stuff is a more common transition. I do think if he tries to go back into lings off this opening, though, there's a massive window on 2-2 for Maru to take him out. I think the best choice for Solar is to play a Roach like Hydra Lurker Viper style. I think that could do really well.
Yeah, I think that could absolutely do it. I mean, there is the Infestation Pit now finishing up, so we'll see the Hive to follow, and there is the Hydra then as well. So Lurker seems to be the flavor that Solar is aiming for here, as Maru is going to push out and clear a little bit of creep. Solar is now taking his 4th base, but there is a squadron of Marines here ready to take that down. 2 medevacs available for the evacuation should Maru need it. Solar is heading here, but is that going to be fast enough? It doesn't look like it. So a cancel will be had. Great job from Maru to start.
That's so irritating for Solar with this fast Hive Lurker play. You need the 7th and 8th gas to really pay for that. That is a frustrating catch there for Maru. Something where as Zerg players, you think, you know what, I'm fine. My Roaches are just standing right here. But those Marines, they're such a fast unit, and the Roaches were not quick enough to respond. Now, Ling Speed's on the way. That's just going to allow you to kind of mix in some Lings to absorb tank shots, but it's the Lurker Den coming in, as well as the Hive finishing up soon, where the real power lies for Zerg. On the Terran side, no second factory. It's just kind of 5 barracks, a factory, a starport, and oh my, it is indeed. It's a 2-2 8 racks timing, cats. So 8 barracks coming in for Maru. It's an incredibly committed 3-base push. He is planning to try and take Solar out in this game.
Is that going to be enough, however, to go up against Lurkers, Piggy? It feels like the Lurker then is well-timed for Solar. The positioning is going to be extremely important for him, however, to kind of be able to receive the aggression from wherever Maru is planning to throw it.
I like that these Roaches are kind of posturing aggressively. Solar, though, does not know about the 8 racks. Remember, we saw the Overseer go down, starts 2 Vipers, the Lurker upgrade's already there. Should already have Hydras coming out. And the earlier you morph those Hydras into Lurkers, which he's already doing with 2 of them, the better for Solar. Lurkers, as you said, Lurker Viper, it feels like hard counters 8 racks. You can just abduct the siege tanks in, there won't be many of them. And the Marines, while they can maybe fight where the Lurkers aren't, drop the main base or something, running into Lurkers with Marines and Roaches in front is not a good idea for Terran. It feels like this build for Solar is perfect, but Maru's a wizard. He has ways of getting out of these bad tech positions and just finding a way to turn it to his favor.
Yeah, and I think his magic hat is probably going to be the lack of vision from Solar, right? He just got Link Speed, so maybe now he has an opportunity to try to get more scouting out, and that's the first thing that the Lynx choose to do. There are no Overlords whatsoever, so Maru is going to look for the angles here. And before Solar has enough Lurkers basically to be positioned everywhere, that's where Maru can exploit him positionally.
Spore Crawler does get some damage, but look at that, sniping the 2 gases. We're talking about these gases and how important they are.
Very
Solar
deliberate.
is gas-starved. He already had that 4th base cancelled, but he's got a 5th base up as well. He's taking the gas down there. So Solar's gas income is shooting on up. More Lings, Hydras, Lurkers being made for Solar. And it does feel like Maru is realizing, oh gosh, I really can't take you out, can I? Starts to build a 4th base on location. The Lings actually take out the SCV building it. Now, for Solar, it's really about, okay, I have a big advantage, but I'm playing one of the best late game players in the world. How do I leverage this advantage? Maru pushing right now is crazy. This is a big opportunity for Solar, but he gives up the base. I feel like he can stomp this army. I mean, one Blinding Cloud on the tanks. The Lurkers could even siege on top of the Bayou. He does have the better force right now, but Solar maybe not confident in his Lurker count just yet. And the fact that there's a drop in the north, Maru is right now posturing with a worse army. He is a small kind of... I'm thinking of like, you know, I've seen like little meerkats or small little animals, and they get up on their hind legs and they scare off a taipan or a cobra or something. Solar right now, he should be the predator, but Maru's treating him like prey.
Yeah, but it's very difficult for Solar because of the lack of creep, for example. Not enough creep spread. That Maru is always coming from unexpected angles and positions, so if his army is not ready to absorb and receive, that's where he's beginning to struggle. As these medevacs do get parasitic bombed and may have to evacuate here, but there's not another one to follow up. Still, 3 of them will go down. Maru perfectly times the last medevac to pick up the remaining units, and a tank will get abducted, but not before the Viper falls.
Yeah, abducting it, but there was nothing there to take advantage of it either. So losing a Viper and Maru taking good trades. Oh, Lurker Drop comes in the natural at the same time.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That could find the money. Remember, Maru just threw away a vast amount of units on the Zerg side of the map. The Lings are cleaning up the tanks. The Lurkers will be hard to deal with in the picture-in-picture. That is the most important fight. But Maru gets on top. The Bayou is wounded, but it survives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those Lurkers were kind of out in the open. They maybe could have taken a better choke there on the side of Solar. And now he does a wonderful job of separating both Lurkers as well. When Maru does have enough scans, however, so he's going to be able to respond responsibly, effectively, to all of this Lurker harass. But this does buy Solar a little bit of space out on the map, and he opts to move out with it, which is beautiful. But there's only a couple of Lurkers here, Piggy.
Oh, it's such a close fight right now. Both sides have so few
good.
Units. The Lurkers get sniped by Maru, though. Solar was just a few seconds slow on borrowing those. He's got more units coming in behind. He's got the supply advantage, though. It's neck and neck. 65 army supply against 65. Maru has got to be low on scans right now. He must be. He's used so many, and yet he has one left, and he gets both Lurkers. A 2-for-1 trade on the scan. And Maru, yes, he lost 21 workers. It's a messy position, but remember, he was way behind on the tech. The fact that he even survives is amazing. The question is, can get enough tanks and Ghosts up to survive the next wave, because Solar is not done just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maru's 3-3 just finished as well. I mean, Solar is lagging behind in upgrades. He has some Lurkers, but he has lost a lot on aggression as well, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult to respond to the aggression of Maru, who is getting situated now to push on forward. So a little bit of bio here. And it is important to note as well, like you were saying, I mean, these players play so fast, and the positioning is so difficult to get sometimes, but a lot of those Lurkers were so scattered. It felt like there were 5 Lurkers lost in that last engagement, and each of them didn't have the backup of the last to really rely on.
100%. I think the Lurkers in the main were kind of crazy because there were so many ready point guys.
Okay.
No way! I did not see that coming at all, Cats.
Another one!
And it goes down. Maru goes for the crazy counter drop, though. Solar's committing to a Lurker drop in the natural as well. Siege Tank does take that Lurker out. The drop in the main gets deflected. Oh my, Solar finding some value here.
Beautiful.
It's getting chaotic for both sides, but Solar, it seems like he's managing it better. Oh, wait, hold that thought. That's a big army.
Yeah.
Taking out the 6th base, and now it's going to get the 4th as well. This is a huge amount of damage.
Yeah, I mean, Solar could have reacted maybe a little bit faster, but he's doing so many things, and on the other side doing a lot of damage as well. Now trying to focus fire the tank with the Hydras, but instead they will have to get back, as the choke is not going to favor them at all. Now with a couple of Marines and a Marauder, Maru is going to be able to clear that position and will be very happy with the last minute.
Wow, I can't believe Maru defended that base and lost so few workers there. I mean, 12 more workers do go down. He gets a hatchery snipe. Still 74 workers to 52 in favor of Solar. But Maru's hanging on. The problem is the lack of that 4th base. And that is why Solar's income's so far ahead. Maru's floating his main out right now. There is still a Lurker, I believe, or something inside Maru's main. These Lurkers get jumped on. Solar's got to be careful, as Maru has a big army supply, about a 12-14 army supply advantage for him. He's got the 3-3 against 2-2 right now, which he's really taking advantage of. Yeah,
he's going to get another cancel there too, as a few Zerglings are going to do what they can to try to cause some mayhem on the other side of the map. I mean, those Lurkers, it is so difficult to make that decision. You have 5 Lurkers in a line ready to absorb some bio, but the respect that Solar has from Maru takes that half a second to try to get back, and does successfully evacuate him. The game is still very close, and I mean, Solar is only going to close the gap in terms of upgrades, and Maru actually not lifting the supply depot that lets Solar inside to 2 bases.
Oh, that is a huge problem for Maru right now. The +2 melee Adrenal Zerg can get in, and they rip the line apart. Lurker's diving on the front at the same time. They burrow on his face. A dangerous move, a crazy move, and Maru punishes it. taking out 6 lurkers. Solar cannot afford to be this sloppy. I mean, he's got money to spare, but that does give a big army supply advantage to Maru. You're doing good damage, but you got to be careful. This army is now so small. Maru could flank it, take out these lurkers and counterattack. Solar has an income advantage, but can he hang on to it, or is he being way too ballsy? Blinding Clouds come down. The lurkers doing big damage. The Hydra and the Lynx as well. Maru with a beautiful surround. Does he have the numbers though? He loses so many units. Does he break the position? Yes. Does he defend the 4th? Yes. But Maru has no economy behind this. He's barely got an army supply advantage. I think he feels like he just has to go now.
Yeah, this game is pretty crazy. The ghosts are out. Maru's going to try to take advantage of that. Does scan and uses the snipe to try to get one of the lurkers. The Marauders are going to finish the job, as Solar is going to be able to retreat with those morphing lurkers instead to the safety of his queens and his transfuse. A lot of these medevacs are also bruised up, so Maru has to be pretty careful himself, but now has attained the better position as far as the choke is concerned, so that will cause Solar to go back.
He's killing it! Maru, I can't believe it with the counterattack! Solar got too wasteful with the aggression. His Lurker Morph got caught. The Ghost Snipes are massive. The Queens are falling. And Maru takes critical damage. He limps across the map, literally losing his vital force as he moves across. No one thought that wounded Terran soldier was going to be able to get this back, and yet Maru strikes back with decisive victory from what many would call a losing situation. That there is the comeback ability of an absolute legend of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, there were so many situations where he was surgical, basically. Such precision. Even